Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from the subreddit Stupid Questions, posted by user apprehensive-bank636, who wrote, "Why don't, quote, good, end quote, celebrities expose the molesters?" Note that the rest of the post is just a comment post. The user says, like Eminem hinted at Diddy thing in many of his songs, and everyone keeps praising Jim Carrey and Keanu Reeves for not being part of Epstein Island group. But they all work so closely there's no way others are not aware of what's going on. These good celebs don't engage in these activities, but they also never spoke against it. Work security is my guess, ... like it would jeopardize their career if they spoke against the powerful group. As of recording, this has over 8,000 upvotes and 1,307 comments. Feel free to post your speculation in the comments to this video or to this Reddit post, linked in the description. First off, we have in these comments, Big X Boss XX1, who wrote, "Read what happened to Brendan Fraser." And user firm-information 3610 responded saying, "Exactly. What happened to him says it all. Speaking up can ruin your career, especially when the abusers have the power." Further down, we have user IGotCheese21, who wrote, "Libel, defamation, being blackballed, all kinds of things that could screw you and make you seem like the bad person. It's not as easy as just speaking up, especially against people as powerful as Diddy." User EpicBlinkstrike187 responded saying, "Which is why it takes 3 or 4 people coming forward to make any of these cases, even though 3 people coming forward probably means 10 people having it happened. But yeah, if you're one person and you're not a superstar, then they'll just think you're chasing a payout." User Let Chaos Reign responded saying, "They'll still think you're chasing a payout. A lot of people think more accusations against one person somehow makes them all less credible." Note that the word "more" is in all caps. The best answer, and the one that has the award featured on screen here, comes from user Scales of Anubis19, who wrote, "If you are going to make that kind of accusation against someone, that can get a battalion of megalodon caliber lawyers after you if you threaten their reputation the wrong way. You'd best have rock solid proof." User WIESTIE wrote in response saying, "I think it's so easy to be conspiratorial without thinking about how the real world works. A lot of times in your own life, you hear someone might be, quote, sketchy, end quote. You don't know specifics, and you can infer the kind of shit they might do, but you really have no idea or proof. Then later, when shit hits the fan and they get charged, etc., your knowledge was confirmed, but it's not like you personally were going to become a private investigator to sort it out and bring them down. Obviously, some people know the details for real. They're just either complicit, victims, or friends of the victims where it's not your place to blow up their lives by telling." Now, I was able to find this article. I don't know how accurate this is, and it's also sourced from GQ, where Brendan Fraser talks about the reason why he disappeared. And apparently one of the biggest reasons was that a former president of the HFPA, known as the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, sexually assaulted him. Quoting, "On Fraser's way out of the hotel," this is in the summer of 2003, "he was hailed by Philip Burke, a former president of the HFPA. In the midst of a crowded room, Burke reached out to shake Fraser's hand. Much of what happened next, Burke recounted in his memoir, was also reported by Sharon Waxman in the New York Times. He pinched Fraser's ass, in jest, according to Burke." Now this next part is in bold. "But Fraser says what Burke did was way more than a pinch. Quote, his left hand reaches around, grabs my ass cheek, and one of his fingers touches me in the taint, and he starts moving it around, end quote. Frazier says that in this moment he was overcome with panic and fear, end quote. Here ends bold. Frazier eventually was able, he says, to remove Burke's hand. Quote, in bold, I felt ill. I felt like a little kid. I felt like there was a ball in my throat. I thought I was going to cry, end quote. He rushed out of the room, outside past a police officer he couldn't quite bring himself to confess to, and then home where he told his then wife, end bold, Afton, what had happened. Quote, I felt like someone had thrown invisible paint on me, end quote, he says now. Parentheses. In an email, Burke, who is still an HFPA member, disputed Frazier's account. Quote, Mr. Frazier's version is a total fabrication, end quote, in parentheses. Now, having seen all of the victims speak out in Me Too and against Bill Cosby and seeing the time that Bill Cosby has served, I don't initially doubt Brendan Frazier's account because it totally could have happened. However, it definitely underscores just how quick some of these sexual assault actions take place. And in that span of time, it is really hard to take what happened to you seriously. You can second guess yourself, and the thought of reporting it probably will never cross your mind. Thinking about even where to begin when reporting assault allegations, we look to RAINN, where it talks about reporting to law enforcement. Where they say, how do I report sexual assault? You have several options for reporting sexual assault. First is call 911. If you are in immediate danger, dial 911. Help will come to you wherever you are. And you have point 2, contact the local police department. Call the direct line of your local police station or visit the station in person. If you're on a college campus, you may also be able to contact campus-based law enforcement. Third and final point is visit a medical center. If you are being treated for injuries resulting from a sexual assault, tell a medical professional that you wish to report the crime. You can also choose to have a sexual assault forensic exam. To find an appropriate local health facility that is prepared to care for survivors, call the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 800-656-HOPE. That's 800-656-4673. They list, who will I be talking to? And they answer, in most areas, there are specific law enforcement officers who are trained to interact with survivors of sexual assault. In addition, many law enforcement agencies participate in sexual assault response teams, parentheses, SARTs, end parentheses, which provide a survivor-centered, coordinated response to sexual assault. SARTs incorporate medical personnel, law enforcement, and sexual assault service providers in your area. They work together to organize the investigation, reduce repetition of questions and interviews, and facilitate communication among all agencies involved. And they have linked here, learn more about communicating with law enforcement. Question, is there a time limit on reporting to the police? Their answer is there is no limitation on when a victim can report a crime to police. However, in many states, there is a limitation on when charges can be filed and a case can be prosecuted. This is called the statute of limitations. Statutes of limitation vary state by state. Type of crime, age of the victim, and various other factors. Visit RAINN's state law database to learn more about the criminal statutes of limitation where you are. Linked here. Then there's another question. What are some common concerns about reporting? Their answer is, if you have questions or concerns about reporting, you're not alone. The list below may have answers to some common questions that are on your mind. First one, the perpetrator got scared away or stopped before finishing the assault. Answer, attempted rape is a serious crime and can be reported. Reports of attempted rape and other assault are taken seriously. Second, I know the person who hurt me. Answer, about 2/3 of victims know the perpetrator. It can be unnerving to be violated by someone you know. Regardless of who the perpetrator is, sexual assault is against the law. Next point, I've been intimate with a perpetrator in the past or am currently in a relationship with the perpetrator. Answer, sexual assault can occur within a relationship, Giving someone consent in the past does not give them consent for any act in the future. If you did not consent, they acted against the law, and you can report it. Next statement, I have no physical injuries, and I'm worried there's not enough proof. Answer, most sexual assaults do not result in external physical injuries. It's important to receive medical attention to check for internal injuries. You can also choose to have a sexual assault forensic exam to check for DNA evidence that may not be visible on the surface. Next one, I'm worried law enforcement won't believe me. Answer, there has been great investment in police training on this topic. While there are occasional exceptions, most law enforcement officers are understanding and on your side. If you do encounter someone who isn't taking your case seriously, ask for their supervisor and let your local sexual assault service provider know. Linked here. Honestly, taking Brendan Fraser's words at face value, he knew the person. He has no physical injuries, and he definitely worried that there's not enough proof. Also worried that law enforcement won't believe him. When it's guards at the event, and it's a Hollywood event, there's every reason to believe that the guards will not take your concerns seriously. Also, I don't want to get in trouble. He doesn't want to get in trouble. He doesn't want to have his career derailed. However, later on in the GQ article, the memory of that alleged event, and alleged because there were no charges pressed and nothing concrete happened against the guy, it forever stayed in Brendan Fraser's mind, which did impact his career. As always, I will link everything in the description below. Before ending this video, I'm going to feature this clip from Dreading and his video on Bill Cosby.
Cosby tried to keep his reputation as sanitized as possible, rumors of his behavior had begun to grow past idle gossip. He had assaulted enough people that it seemed that everyone in the entertainment industry knew someone who knew someone else who had been assaulted by him, and young women were being advised against spending time alone with him. With more independent reporters being able to write what they want, and with the internet being so easily accessible, stories that had been pushed down by Cosby and his team found legs. In 1990, the National Enquirer ran a story about the various stories of sexual assault surrounding Cosby, and, according to Wendy Williams, gave the tabloid an entire interview denouncing the claims. Upon discovering this interview, Wendy discussed the claims on her morning show, but halfway through, she was called into her manager's office. On February 1st, 2000, the first criminal complaint would be filed against Cosby. 20-year-old Lachelle Covington had been invited sitcom star. After 4 days in talking to her family, she went to the police. Cosby admitted that he had had dinner with Lachelle, but after that, she went home. He implied that Lachelle and her family were trying to extort him, although proof of that did not exist. After a brief investigation, the police referred the complaint to the district attorney, who declined to prosecute, stating that there was simply nothing there. The next time Cosby would speak to the police would be in 2005, when Andrea Constant, the operations director of the women's basketball team at Temple University, would contact the police over an incident a year prior.
All you have to do is look at the very real-life criminal reports, case files, and the eventual culmination of evidence that it takes just to take someone like this down. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't report any kind of sexual assault that happens against you. And that doesn't mean that you can't file a complaint. In fact, it means that anybody that is experiencing sexual assault or attempted sexual assault at the hands of another person should do their best to file a complaint with the police. If it feels like the police aren't taking it with any seriousness, then write it down, make a recording, do your best to recount events, especially what you remember for the sequence events. Find someone who was there to at least corroborate some part of your story. and do your best to have some kind of documentation, especially what you feel and how you're reacting to the incident. A day later, a week later. Do your best to document it, especially if you don't trust the police, because it might be valuable information for cases like this, where in some cases, people were testifying about incidents that had happened to them after decades of the incident having happened to them. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.
Bill Cosby, allegedly. Yeah, because Bill Cosby got out somehow, like on some technicality, which is just like, goddamn. If you do some crimes, make sure you got that money for those expensive lawyers.